It began as a rumor whispered across tech forums and innovation circles in Africa. A small black box, no larger than a Wi-Fi router, was said to produce limitless electricity without fuel, sunlight, or motion. At first, people dismissed it as another free energy hoax. But then came the footage, a rural village in Zimbabwe glowing at night, every home lit, without a single power line in sight. In the center of that transformation stood one man, Maxwell Chikumbutso. For years, his name had been spoken with both admiration and disbelief. He was the inventor who claimed to have built self-powered cars, buses, drones, and even aircrafts, all running without traditional batteries or engines. And now he'd unveiled his most astonishing creation yet, the MSED, a micro self-energy device. A tiny box capable of replacing nuclear power. No fuel, no emissions, no waste, just pure, continuous energy drawn for what Maxwell described as the ambient electromagnetic field of the universe. Scientists from across the world couldn't believe it. The notion that a handheld device could generate power on par with nuclear plants sounded impossible. But the demonstrations told a different story. In a live broadcast from Harare, Maxwell connected the box to a standard power grid panel. He flipped a switch, and suddenly, an entire compound came alive. Lights, air conditioning, machinery, all powered by the MSED. The display meter showed zero external input, no grid connection, no backup generator, just the box. The crowd erupted in disbelief. It wasn't just a scientific moment. It was spiritual, emotional, almost prophetic. Africa had long been seen as a continent hungry for power, both literally and economically. Now, a single invention threatened to rewrite that story forever. Reporters from CNN, BBC, and Al Jazeera scrambled to verify the claim. But every test, every measurement came back the same. The MSED worked. And not just for minutes, for hours, days, continuously. Inside, the device contained a mysterious circuitry unlike any known electrical design. Some parts appeared custom printed, while others were shielded with unidentified materials. What drew attention most was its core, a compact module pulsing with blue light, humming faintly as if alive. Maxwell refused to reveal the full design, citing intellectual and safety concerns. He claimed the MSED harnessed electromagnetic resonance, a principle where the environment itself becomes an infinite power source when tuned correctly. To skeptics, it sounded like pseudoscience. But to engineers who saw it firsthand, it felt like standing at the dawn of a new era. Within weeks, videos of the device spread across social media. Viewers called it Africa's answer to nuclear fusion. Others dubbed it the end of the energy crisis. Even major energy companies began to react, quietly, nervously. If true, this invention didn't just threaten fossil fuels. It made entire nuclear and renewable sectors obsolete. Imagine a world without fuel stations, without massive grids, without blackouts. A world where every home, car, and city could run indefinitely on a single box. That's the vision the MSED was promising. But every revolution comes with resistance. Within days of Maxwell's announcement, strange things started happening. His official website went offline. Some of his interviews disappeared from YouTube. International energy experts began releasing counterstatements, calling it scientifically improbable. Yet the public had seen it work. They had seen lights turn on in remote villages that had never known electricity. Children doing homework under bright LED lamps powered by a device no bigger than a lunchbox. Hospitals running life-saving equipment without a single generator. And so the movement began from skepticism to hope. In Uganda, a university engineering team replicated the basic setup using similar coils and circuits, achieving partial success. In Nigeria, entrepreneurs started crowdfunding to bring the technology into rural schools. In Kenya, the government reportedly contacted Maxwell's team for a pilot energy program. But what made the world stop was a single headline. Zimbabwe generates first national grid power from MSED network. That's when the story changed from curiosity to confrontation. For decades, Africa had been dependent on imported energy solutions, oil deals, solar contracts, and foreign-built nuclear plants. Now, a homegrown invention was about to make all that irrelevant. The world's energy map was being redrawn, from the heart of Africa outward. In scientific terms, Maxwell's device seemed to operate on a frequency capture principle, pulling energy from radio frequency and static fields omnipresent in the environment. But in spiritual terms, people saw it as something greater, as if Africa had finally tapped into the Earth's hidden life force. Maxwell himself described it not as invention, but revelation. He claimed he had received the concept during years of meditation and experimentation. He spoke of energy as alive, a universal gift waiting to be unlocked. To some, that sounded mystical. To others, visionary. When reporters asked him if he had any patents filed, he smiled and said, "You cannot patent what belongs to all humanity." That statement spread across social media like wildfire. He wasn't trying to sell energy. He was trying to liberate it, but that also made him a target. A few months later, rumors spread that Maxwell's lab had been visited by foreign officials. Some claimed his prototypes were confiscated. Others said he had gone underground to protect his technology. Meanwhile, small units of MSEDs continued appearing in remote regions, distributed quietly by his supporters. Entire communities began running off-grid, independently, without relying on any government supply. Economists call it the birth of micro-energy sovereignty. Energy independence was no longer a political dream. It was a technical reality. Global investors tried to locate the source, offering billions in exchange for exclusive rights. But Maxwell's team remained silent. What they did reveal, however, was the next evolution, the MSED MKII, capable of powering not just homes, but entire industrial complexes. Footage showed a steel factory in Zambia running entirely on one device. Massive machinery operating seamlessly with no external connection. Power meters read zero input cost. Scientists visiting the site were left speechless. Every test instrument confirmed. Continuous voltage, stable current, perfect output. No radiation, no heat emissions, no degradation over time. This was not just an energy breakthrough. It was a scientific anomaly. The global energy sector, worth trillions, was suddenly staring at its extinction. Oil prices dipped amid growing speculation. Nuclear contracts were frozen. Renewable startups began pivoting toward integration with MSED networks. The shift was seismic. In one African press briefing, a journalist asked, "If this is real, why isn't it everywhere yet?" Maxwell's answer was chillingly simple. Because truth travels slower than profit. That line became iconic. Within days, protests erupted across Europe and Asia demanding energy freedom. Ordinary citizens asked why such technology wasn't being shared globally. Governments scrambled to respond, while major corporations quietly began their own research to replicate the effect. But Maxwell's original device remained unmatched. Its secret lay in what many now call the resonant field core. This core seemed to manipulate frequency harmonics in ways that defied conventional electromagnetism. It didn't store power. It generated it spontaneously, like tuning a radio to the frequency of energy itself. For physicists, this was revolutionary. It suggested that energy was not limited by fuel, but by understanding that the universe itself was an endless generator, waiting to be tuned into. And the MSCD was the first device to do it. As word spread, universities in South Africa and Egypt began studying the concept formally. Some declared the fourth industrial wave, the era of self-sustaining technology. Maxwell's invention became a symbol of African Renaissance, a spark that reversed centuries of dependency. The narrative shifted. Africa was no longer the consumer of innovation, but its origin. International observers called it the moment humanity crossed the energy threshold. Even Elon Musk reportedly commented on social media, "If it works as shown, this changes everything." For many Africans, it already had. In rural Namibia, farmers used MSEDs to power irrigation systems, transforming dry lands into green fields. In Tanzania, schools once limited by daylight now operated 24 hours, powered by the box. In Ghana, local engineers built EV charging stations run purely on MSED units. And in Zimbabwe, the birthplace of the invention, national pride soared. Murals of Maxwell appeared in cities, depicting him as the light bringer of Africa. Cultural leaders compared its innovation to the discovery of fire. For centuries, energy had been controlled by the few. Now, it was being shared by the many. But beyond the celebrations lay the deeper question: how does it actually work? Experts propose that the MSED operated through zero-point field interaction, pulling microfluctuations from the quantum vacuum into usable current. Others theorize it was a highly tuned form of electromagnetic induction utilizing Earth's magnetic resonance. Whatever the mechanism, it was stable, silent, and clean. That alone made it unlike any power source ever created. As more prototypes emerged, the scale of potential became clearer. A single MSED could power a small town. 10 could power an entire industrial city. 50 could theoretically replace a nation's nuclear output. The math was staggering. If implemented globally, the technology could eliminate carbon emissions entirely within a decade. No more coal, no more oil, no more radioactive waste buried in deserts. The geopolitical implications were enormous. Energy had always been the currency of power. Now, that power was shifting, no longer controlled by corporations or governments, but by individuals and communities. For the first time in modern history, energy was becoming democratized. People began calling it the Light Revolution. Maxwell, meanwhile, kept a low profile. He rarely appeared in media, preferring his technology to speak for itself. In one rare interview, he was asked what inspired him to keep going despite criticism. He replied softly, "Because humanity deserves freedom, and energy is the first freedom." That quote became engraved on countless online tributes. As weeks turned into months, the MSED began spreading beyond Africa. Small shipments were reported in India, Brazil, and parts of Southeast Asia. Communities that once relied on diesel now ran purely on MSED energy. Power lines became obsolete. Generators fell silent. The world was entering an age of abundance, and it all began with a tiny box. Historians would later look back at this period as a turning point of civilization, the moment humanity proved that the impossible was merely the unexplored. And though the science behind it remained partially hidden, its impact was undeniable. Energy poverty vanished. Economies stabilized. Innovation flourished. Children in once dark villages grew up in light, education, and opportunity. For the first time in generations, Africa was not following the world's lead. It was leading the world forward. And the symbol of that transformation was not a satellite, a reactor, or a turbine. It was a small black box, silent, powerful, eternal. The MSED had replaced nuclear power, not with destruction, but with creation, not with fear, but with hope. And as the sun set over a continent, glowing brighter than ever before, one truth echoed louder than all others. The future of energy was no longer buried deep underground or trapped in atomic cores. It was already here, in the hands of humanity, humming softly inside a tiny box.